Welcome. This is Jean Eaton, your practical privacy coach and practice management mentor with Information Managers. I am your host for our Practice Management Mentor webinar today, and it is my honor and pleasure to be with you. This is a weekly interview series with practice managers, healthcare providers, or trusted vendors who support healthcare practices. Our topics help primary care practice managers, healthcare providers, and owners to implement, maintain, or improve their business and practice administration so that healthcare providers can focus on providing quality healthcare services. If you are a beginner to advanced privacy, access, and security professional, you need to know about the National Privacy and Data Governance Congress hosted by the Privacy and Access Council of Canada. This Congress, hosted by PACC, will provide you with workshops and interactive presentations from industry experts to grow your professional development. If you're serious about practical learning in privacy, access, and security, and want to join speakers, delegates, and thought leaders with shared interests on privacy that you can apply in your own environment right away, you are in the right place. Today, my guest is Sharon Polsky, the president of the Privacy and Access Council of Canada, the nonpartisan, nonprofit association of privacy and access professionals in Canada's private and public sectors, and the host of the National Privacy and Data Governance Congress. We've created this meeting you interview for you with Sharon Polsky to give you a behind-the-scenes peek at the upcoming National Privacy and Data Governance Congress. In the next 30 minutes, we're going to take a look at the speakers and the topics of the Congress. Sharon, I am delighted that you have joined us today. Thank you.
It is my absolute pleasure, Jean, and I'm really looking forward to listeners' comments and questions and to talking with you about the upcoming Congress.
So am I. It really is a very exciting event, and I'm anxious to get into that. But I want to make sure that everybody knows who you are and why you are such an important leader for the PACC and such an advocate for the Congress. So Sharon is the president of Amina Corp in Calgary and a Privacy by Design ambassador with more than 30 years' experience advising corporations, governments, and organizations about privacy and access implications and unintended consequences of emerging laws, technologies, and global trends. She's also the president of the Privacy and Access Council of Canada, the nonpartisan national nonprofit association of privacy and access professionals in Canada for both the private and public sectors. Sharon is the founder and editor of the Winston Report and is passionate about the importance of effective data protection and information risk management. She has extensive knowledge and demonstrated ability for researching, analyzing, interpreting, and applying Canada's privacy and access legislation and for accessing relevant business and technical issues. Sharon is frequently invited to write about and speak about data governance and information security and is a frequent speaker and lecturer in the areas of data privacy, information security, cyber liability, and the privacy implications of emerging laws and technologies. And her insights are frequently sought by conference organizers and by the media, including CTV, CBC, CPAC, the National Post, the Calgary Sun, the Edmonton Sun, the Edmonton Journal, and many, many more. Sharon, we've worked together for a while. I've been on the executive of the PACC, and that's how we got to learn to work with each other. And I know that you are a mover and shaker, and I know that you're very passionate about the topic about privacy and access and data governance. Thank you for joining us and sharing your information about the Congress.
Well, thanks, first of all, Jean, for the invitation to join you all today and for your very kind words. The Congress is something that the Privacy and Access Council has looked forward to for quite some time, and actually the first inaugural event was held in October of 2014, and it was a wonderful success. For a completely unknown event, we had more than 150 people who came literally from coast to coast to coast to hear privacy commissioners, security, data governance, and protection experts. And we did it differently because I'm sure we've all been to conferences where they pack in as many people as possible into the room, and the sessions are quick, and you don't get to see anybody, or how do you meet someone when there's 800, 1,200 people in a room? It's impossible to do good networking, so we intentionally are limiting it to a maximum of 250 people, and that way, everybody who shows up at the conference, you have a chance in a relaxed environment to actually talk with the speakers and ask questions. That's why you're there, not to hear a talking head at the front of the room. So the inaugural event worked perfectly, and we had some amazing feedback that people really appreciated it. So we're doing that again this year.
And it's a great format. I love the idea that it encourages both people that are new to the field and people that are experts in the field to be in the same room and to be able to do that networking, but really have time to get into the content and the details about the topics and have those discussions about how it works for you, so that when you go back to your home office, that you've got something tangible that you can take that and do something that is constructive for your organization.
You're absolutely right, Jean. The whole idea is to give everybody a practical, hands-on experience, because history and theory, I mean, it's good to know, but it's hard to put that into practice. Or to hear an annual report or statistics, it's very interesting, but that's available on the web. You can go onto any commissioner's website and read their annual report. That's not what this Congress is about. This Congress is about half-day workshops, from how to handle data breaches to big data and privacy by design. We've got someone coming in from who was with the Privacy Commissioner of Ontario's office to do an executive seminar. But we do, as you say, target everything from the people who are starting in this profession to people who have been at it for a very long time, because there is so much that continues to change between Canadian and international laws, international agreements, technology. It's moving so very quickly. There is so much to learn.
There is, and you've got some really exciting topics happening at the Congress, and I want to get to them but very quickly, Sharon, would you quickly give us a background about the PACC and why should the Privacy and Access Council of Canada be the one that hosts this event, and why should people join the Privacy and Access Council of Canada?
Gladly. The Privacy and Access Council, we've been around for, 12 years now, and the whole concept of the organization was born out because in Canada, as I'm sure many of the listeners today realize, a lot of us started out by being voluntold. You're doing privacy today. Oh, there was an access request. You're doing it. It came to be because there were new laws, but there's never been any real good training. And people work off the side of their desk along with their real job, and the whole profession wasn't recognized. And there needed to be a way of getting people from across the country to be able to speak to each other, to know who's doing what, so we don't have to keep reinventing the same wheels. And an important part is PAC is not only privacy and we're not only access, because those are both two sides of the same coin. So we look at access and privacy from a Canadian perspective. And that is so unique because we're the only organization that represents the professionals across Canada in the public sector and the private sector for access and privacy.
I like to think of PAC as kind of the melting pot of privacy and access and security professionals for Canada, across all different sectors, all different industries, and all different points of view. We're all really passionate about making sure that we have information protected for the protection of the individuals that the information is about.
Absolutely. And you're right. We bring in not just access and privacy because we realize how important it is for people to work together with the legal counsel, with IT people, with all the other domains who rely on us and upon whom we rely. So we bring that in not only on a day-to-day basis in PAC and providing information for our members, but also in the upcoming Congress.
Right. Okay, so we can talk a whole lot about PAC, but that's not our purpose here today. So if you're interested in learning more about the Privacy and Access Council of Canada, see if that's an association that you want to become a member of and access all of the great resources, including a very newsworthy Winston report, you can follow up with Sharon directly or on the website for pacc-ccap.ca.
Absolutely, and if you've been involved in the profession for quite a while, there's also a very robust professional certification program. Details are on the website.
Okay, thank you. So PACC is certainly the organization that has the reputation and the reliability to offer and host this Congress. So let's get back to the Congress. What are the learning objectives for the Congress? If I'm attending as a delegate, what should be my learning objectives and what will I come away with?
Oh, the primary thing is you're going to come away with practical knowledge that you can put to use right away. Everything from how to prevent data breaches to what to do if there is a data breach, how to handle it. Some of the really interesting aspects of the topics will talk about things that we're dealing with every day and we don't even have a chance to talk about it. So, for instance, there is genetic research being done for personalized medicine, and that's tremendous. The potential benefits, reduced cost in the healthcare system, improved healthcare for individuals, it's amazing. But there's another side that people seldom talk about, and what are the unintended consequences of genetic research? Where will that information go? What are the implications at work? If you wear a Fitbit or you drive a car that's a rolling computer now, what information is gathered from your Fitbit while you're in your car that's sent to your benefits provider who's going to say you do or you don't have insurance based on where your car went and what your heart rate was? All of these are very science fiction sort of things that are happening now, and we need to get the jump on it. So you come to the conference and you hear about these very important issues. You can go back into your own work environment and understand better what the implications are if a benefits provider suggests, let's get everybody a Fitbit so we can provide them with a personalized fitness plan. It's not necessarily as simple as that. Okay. So we need to be aware of what the risks of the unintended consequences are so that we can plan for ourselves individually and for our organizations how we manage the data and how we make that data available to other people so that they can use it appropriately and we recognize those dangers of big data and the advantages of big data. Oh, there's lots of advantages to be sure, but with every convenience comes a cost. And that's the sort of thing that needs to be looked at if you're doing a privacy impact assessment. And I'm sure that'll be covered off in the PIA workshop that the Alberta Privacy Commissioner's Office will be presenting on day one. Absolutely. Okay, so who should be coming to this Congress? Well, I wish it was simple enough to say chief privacy officers and data protection officers and that's all, except because, as you know, every organization in Canada, everybody in Canada is affected by technology and privacy laws. It affects everybody in every sort of organization. So certainly chief privacy officers and data protection professionals, but also chief information security officers, medical professionals, researchers, ethics professionals, information security, technology, and IP professionals. It's a very long list because, as I said, all of these different domains and professions need to work together, and to be able to do your work effectively, you need to have a solid understanding of what goes on in those other domains.
Absolutely. So as I tried to put together a list of people that should attend the conference, my list kept getting longer and longer and longer as we went through all the different topics that are going to be discussed at the Congress. So let's get into the topics and see where all of this fits in. So the Congress starts on Wednesday, March 30th, and the Congress agenda is available on the PACC website. So we've highlighted a few of the, or most of the topics and the speakers. And Sharon, I'd love to hear a little bit of your insider's news about what you expect that is going to be discussed on these topics, and where appropriate, a little bit about the presenter, about what makes them exciting and interesting for this particular topic.
Well, we're starting off, as we see, with a seminar. It's the Executive Seminar on Privacy and Big Data. This is something that was developed by Anne Cavoukian, the former Information Privacy Commissioner of Ontario, and her right hand at the time, Michelle Chiba, is coming out to present the workshop. And it is so very, very timely because there is an explosion of big data, and the Internet of Things is gathering information, and we need to learn better how to handle it and what to do with that information, or not collect it, perhaps, because we don't want to have a breach, and we do, as we see in the second workshop. We're going to be talking about how to do privacy impact assessments, which have become, in some jurisdictions in Canada, legally required. And even if they're not, they are such an important and expected business requirement now that it's essential to do them and do them well. And if all else fails, when something happens and your data is compromised, I'm looking forward to your workshop, Jean, of how to manage a data breach. And that's critical, because it used to be that it was a matter of if there's a breach, if something wrong happens. Now it's just a matter of when. So we all need to be prepared ahead of time so that when something happens, we've got that practical knowledge, the checklists, the what to do knowledge, solid, good skills and information, so that we are not caught flat-footed and we can move forward with confidence.
Certainly, and that's one of the recommendations from the Alberta Privacy Commissioner about privacy breach incident response, is that we need to have a plan, and that plan needs to be comprehensive about how we're going to respond to it, how we're going to investigate it, how we're going to report it, and what needs to be reported and when. So we've got 3 workshops on day 1 of the Congress. And your Congress registration includes access to the workshops. Is that right?
Everything is included, absolutely. And
okay.
There's an early bird pricing on during January.
Excellent. Okay. So we've got some opportunities to talk with Michelle and from the Commissioner's office and with me about the different aspects about privacy. So you can pick and choose which of those workshops that you want to attend. And these workshop lengths are an hour and a half. Is that right?
No, actually, the first morning's workshops are 3 hours long. And then we kick off, the first morning is 3-hour workshops, and then we kick off with the call to conference and the opening keynote addressed by the Senate Liberal leaders coming in from Ottawa, Senator James Cowan, and he is the sponsor of Canada's anti-DNA discrimination legislation. So that should be exciting. And I'm hoping he'll also give us a glimpse into what's going on in Ottawa and what we can expect.
All right. So the workshops are 3 hours in length, so you're actually going to get some practical knowledge out of it. You're going to get some hands-on and things that you're going to be able to take back. And we've got a huge scope of presenters, and the Senate Liberal leader talking about the legislation, and he has a particular interest about both genetic discrimination and mental health.
He has indeed, and he put forward the anti-DNA discrimination legislation during the last Parliament, and that, of course, it went nowhere with the change of government, and a piece of legislation has been reintroduced, and someone who worked closely with him on that will be one of the speakers on one of the panels, Bev Heim-Myers, and she's the executive director of the Huntington Society of Canada. And there's been some really interesting examples that she's told me about where people have a DNA test. You know, you send your swab into 23andMe or to Ancestry, and based on the results, all of a sudden, you have no life insurance, or there's all sorts of unexpected issues, or you can't get a job because your potential employer gets the results from the States because it's not covered by Canadian law, and they decide, well, you might be a bigger risk than they want, so they look at another candidate, and you don't get that job. So these are issues that need to be looked at in Canada, and these are the people speaking at our conference in March who are making these things happen.
One of the things that I find really interesting about the selection of speakers, Sharon, is that we've got policymakers, we've got people that are in the trenches and doing things, and then we have the other perspective, like we have with Sherry Morash, about as a patient or as a parent advocate.
Well, she is, and as I said, it's not just access and privacy, it's real life and the different perspectives that come into play. And Sherry, I met her, she is such a delightful woman, and she is going to tell us a very, very personal story about routine DNA testing during pregnancy and some of the results of that are so astounding. And this is a story that needs to be heard. She actually wrote a book about her experience, and if we're lucky, she'll have copies available. But we also have another author who will be the closing keynote speaker, Edwin Black. He's actually a New York Times award-winning author. He's written several books that have been translated into numerous languages, and I mean, he speaks at something like 200 events a year. He's in great demand, and we are just so delighted that he's coming to Calgary for the first time ever. He wrote several books, one of which is on my bookshelf. It's IBM and the Holocaust, and it talks about the intersection between technology and law and privacy and genetics. And his views, I've had the opportunity to speak with him several times. He's just a delightful gentleman, and he is so knowledgeable. It's going to be wonderful. So we've bookended the entire conference with those amazing keynote speakers. And of course, all the keynotes, all the workshops, all the sessions, the meals, everything is included in the same price to attend the conference. And in between, we've got sessions, everything from lawyers talking about cloud computing to security people with policing backgrounds who talk about physical security and what that has to do with privacy. Things that we need to think about on a practical day-to-day perspective to do our jobs effectively and protect our companies and our customers' personal information. And these are the things, the practical skills that you will obtain at the Congress.
Okay. So we're going to be talking about surveillance and physical security. So we've got Derek James and Phil Northrop. So we've got a lawyer and a former RCMP member talking about the legal side of things, and I'm sure that Phil is going to have some interesting firsthand stories to tell about the physical security, about managing security cameras and intrusion alarms and all of that other wonderful pieces of technology and how it applies in our business life and our personal lives.
Absolutely. Well, especially with him being a former RCMP member, it's like an occupational hazard with them. You just scratch the surface, and they've got war stories. They can talk forever, but it's real life experience that they're talking about, not just the theoretical. And if you notice on the agenda, all of the sessions are longer than most people are used to, because usually you go to an event and the session is 45 or 50 minutes. There might be a couple minutes for a question or two, and that's it. You move on to the next session. We did it differently last time as a test, and the format worked so very well. Sessions are at least an hour and a half long. And that way, although it's an hour and a half long, we've asked all of the presenters to have remarks prepared for half of that time only. And we've told them, please reserve half of that time, a full 45 minutes, to engage in conversation with everybody who is there, because they have questions. We don't just want you to read off the slides. In fact, we've asked them to not even bother bringing slides if they don't need them. Talk with people, have real, meaningful conversations, and we've chosen the speakers who are good at doing that.
Okay. And one of those speakers is Martin Kratz, talking about cloud computing. Now,
he's wonderful.
And cloud computing is such a topic of conversation.
Well, cloud computing. Now, Martin, you've got to remember, he teaches at Osgood Law in Toronto. He's a Calgary lawyer. He's on several boards, and he's, unlike many lawyers, he's a really good lawyer. He's personable. He's got a good sense of humor, and he understands the technology and the privacy side, same as Jim Swanson, who's another lawyer who's going to be speaking at the conference. And they can put the issues into terms that we understand from our everyday lives. Cloud computing, it's out there. What's the big deal? It's removed from our day-to-day existence. And Martin's going to talk about what is going on. I mean, we have international issues. You do your work in Canada, but the cloud is in some other country. What are the privacy issues? What are your compliance issues with Canadian privacy law? Those are the things that Martin's going to talk about.
Okay. And then we get into day two. So we've got more to come. So on Thursday, March 31st, we start off with the plenary session about connected cars. And this just blows my mind about this whole topic. And we've got an expert panel to talk about the good and the bad and the ugly of connected cars.
It's going to be a really interesting day. Pippa Lawson, she's a lawyer. She used to head up CIPIC in Ottawa, and now she's with the government in the Yukon. And she actually was the lead researcher on a report that was funded by the Office of the Privacy Commissioner of Canada under the Contributions Grant Program, and they looked at connected cars. What information is collected? Who gets access to it? Why? When? Do we have any options? Can we opt out of our information being collected? Or what is the scope and what are the limits? And it's very revealing as to what few limits there really are now and how good our current laws are at protecting us. We are waiting to hear back from a couple auto manufacturers to get their side of it, because we want to make sure that all of the discussions are balanced. It's easy to take one side or the other, but that wouldn't be right. We are working very hard to make sure it's a balanced presentation so everybody who comes to the Congress can get that complete set of information and make an informed decision to take back with them.
Okay. PIPEDA amendments, that's something that's going to affect many of us across the nation. So we're going to have a chat about that as well.
Absolutely. We've got one of the lawyers from the Office of the Privacy Commissioner of Canada, Jennifer Selligy. She's coming in to talk about the amendments, and the conference is in 3 months from now, and there's no telling what will happen in Ottawa. So I'm sure that she will give us the absolutely latest information available, because as you all know, there's been so many requests and pleas for updating and modernization of access and privacy laws. I'm sure Jennifer will give us some insights that will be very, very important for us all as professionals and as Canadians. Okay.
So we'll talk about the amendments on a Canadian-wide basis, and peace of mind with GPS, and some more information about vehicles.
Well, yes, because this here, GPS, it gets into everything from our cars as we drive to the grocery store and to our spouses and girlfriends and boyfriends, maybe all of the above. But it also gets into the whole area of our children as students and the GPS systems that are being installed on buses, school buses, for the parents' peace of mind and the children's safety. But there's other privacy issues that need to be discussed, and we will discuss those.
This is so interesting. We can get into talking about fleets of cars and our responsibilities as employers and insurers. And, okay, I'm pumped for it. Autonomous vehicles, cars that drive themselves.
Yeah, there's a lot of issues there because, I mean, I know there's a lot of lawyers who are rubbing their hands together just waiting for this, because if I'm driving an American manufacturer's car that's produced in Mexico, and the company is owned by a European company actually, and there's an accident, but the software in the car is owned by the company and protected by American law, do I have access to it? Will my insurer, my lawyer? It's an absolute mess. Meantime, we have the autonomous cars that have the radar, if you will, pinging so that the cars don't hit another car. It's constant GPS, constant monitoring and reporting of your location. So with that information, it's so easy to put together the path that I have taken every day. What are my patterns? Do I go the same time of day, the same places? If not, why not? And then who's going to be able to get access to that information? Will it just be me or the car manufacturer? Can they sell it? Will the police? There's so many aspects to this whole complex area. And we've got one speaker who's going to be talking about the autonomous vehicles, Paul Godsmark, from the Canadian Automated Vehicle Centre of Excellence. And I've had the opportunity to have a few conversations with him, and it's absolutely fascinating to think of not only the conveniences and the safety that autonomous cars are promising us, but that other whole area that affects our privacy and our existence on a personal side, and from the employer side, of course. Again, is it okay to monitor your employee's activity? And if you give the person a company car that they take home at night, how does the employee know that you're not monitoring their comings and goings off hours? All of these very creepy concerns. And, of course, we are going to have so many of Canada's information and privacy commissioners at the conference. They will be available to ask questions. And we're doing a wrap-up. We did this sort of thing last year where it's a regulators roundtable to wrap up the whole event. And on Friday afternoon, we've got representatives from several commissioners' offices. And again, we're not asking them to do a review of their annual report. We don't want that. We want to know what are the important issues, what should people be looking forward to, what's coming down the pipe, so we can be prepared to respond well and effectively. So it should be such an exciting 3-day event. We're looking forward to it.
Absolutely. And one of the things that gets me really pumped out about this is that the registration is capped. You've got a small group, and here's an opportunity for you as an attendee to come and talk with so many people in the room, and you'll be sitting beside the privacy commissioner or the lawyer from this group, or the expert in another field at another group. And what an opportunity, and to have some real conversations. And this stuff is leading edge. We haven't got a lot of test cases in these things, so you're going to be able to anticipate those questions and see how you're asking the right questions in your place of work to make sure that you're prepared for these opportunities. So we've got the plenary session on Friday, and I know that you had talked earlier, Sharon, about Edmund Black, about being our guest speaker, and that's to kick off the Friday morning event on Friday, April 1st.
That's right. Edwin is going to do the keynote on Friday morning, and he calls it eugenics. I was just listening to something on CBC about eugenics in Canada that a lot of us, particularly people in Alberta, are familiar with because it went on well into the 1970s. But it's actually continuing in Canada, and now with the power of big data and analytics and very fast computers, and all the information is being gathered through healthcare connected systems, and there's some things coming at us that Edwin's going to talk about that will give us all, I think, some serious pause to contemplate and prepare. And this is the sort of discussion that I think is important to even guide public policy. So I'm very glad that the commissioners will be in the room and the senator as well. This is going to be really good stuff.
It is. So the Congress starts on March 30th. How do we get registered?
The registration is very simple. It's on the PAC website at pacc-ccap.ca, and there's links all over the website to the registration. It's online. We were very careful as a Canadian organization, understanding the importance of privacy, of course. We were very careful to choose a web host in Canada whose servers are in Canada, and payment processors in Canada, so that our attendees' information can stay in Canada. So just go online onto the website, and if you're not comfortable putting your credit card information onto a website, by all means call our office, 877-746-PAC, and we will help you out. Or, of course, you can always send a check, but registration online is really very simple.
Okay.
And we look forward to seeing you all at the National Privacy and Data Governance Congress at the end of March.
All right. And the registration rate, the full rate for non-member is $650 Canadian.
And there is now an early bird pricing, so you'll save $125. And that's for January. And there's different categories as well. It's all listed on the website.
Right. So we've got student categories, we've got membership categories for PACC, and some of our listeners today might also belong to a professional association that is a partner organization with PACC and has special membership rates for the Congress.
That's right. There's several tips and several other professional organizations in Canada. And if you're not sure if your professional organization is one of our partners, get in touch with them and double check. And if they're not, by all means, encourage them to reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy, because we're not in this as a volunteer nonprofit organization. It's not about making money. Certainly we have to cover our costs. It's about making sure that people in this profession get the education, the training, the awareness, the tools that they need. So we'd be more than happy to extend the PAC member rate to other professionals so that they too can benefit.
Okay. So your registration gives you 2 keynote speakers, 3 workshops, 3 days, 8 breakouts, 4 plenaries, and a limit on the number of attendees. So you've got a small community that you're going to become familiar with and have great conversations, networking, and to be able to bring practical tools back to your workplace so that you can make use of them right away. And, of course, it's a great networking opportunity. So it includes all of the presentations, the workshops, some additional breakout sessions, the Congress meals, refreshments, receptions, networking opportunities, and a networking reception, all for the amazing low price of $650 Canadian, and you may get access to additional discounts with your professional associations and the early bird code at the checkout. So if you're interested in registering for the Congress, you can contact Sharon at either of these contact information. Remember to mention your professional association rate or the early bird discount. Sharon, this is going to be a really exciting Congress. It's a wonderful opportunity to be able to have this available in Calgary on March 30th to April 1st. Anything else that you'd like to add that we may have missed today, or anything else that you want to add as far as wrap up? And before you answer, I'm going to ask people that are on the call live today, if you've got any questions for Sharon, you can enter them into the Q&A box onto our website right away, or you can email me or Sharon after the presentation today.
Absolutely.
So Sharon, anything to wrap up?
Well, this is the sort of thing where we realize that some people are reluctant to put up their hand in public because it might be a sensitive question or awkward, or I will invite everybody to phone me or send me a note if you have a question or an issue that you want raised anonymously. We've done this for all sorts of public consultations, legislative change issues, but for conferences as well, because we realize that you might be attending with your colleagues from your workplace and you're reluctant to have them know that you're the one voicing an issue. I assure you, we've done it before and we can do it again, where your concerns will be expressed and no one will know it was from you. So it's important that you have a chance to be heard and have your say. And as the Voice for Privacy and Access in Canada, the Privacy and Access Council of Canada wants to do that for you, and that's part of what we do.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sharon, for giving us the behind-the-scenes peek about the National Privacy and Data Governance Congress in Calgary, March 30th, 31st, and April 1st. I'm looking forward to being there. It's going to be a very exciting event. I'm looking forward to being able to see you there, Sharon, and I'm looking forward to having our participants on the webinar today join us today and share this information with other people that you're working with. It's a great opportunity to have this offered in Calgary at such a very reasonable rate for 3 days of conference. You're not going to be able to beat the rate, and it's a fantastic networking and professional development opportunity. That's a wrap for us today, Sharon, and that is a wrap for our Practice Management Nugget webinar today. This is Jean Eaton, your host with Practice Management Nugget Webinar, and thanking you for joining us and asking you to stay tuned and join us for our next guest next week. Stay tuned.